We'll call to order the Finance Committee meeting on September 19th, 2022 at 7 p.m. We have three items this evening on the agenda, and I will begin with the first item, which is order number 22-100-8662A, communication from Mayor Vigin with proposed salary ordinance, Chapter 125, Personnel, Section 6, to increase the salary for the head electrician to a maximum of $81,283.77, consistent with the Havoc technician's salary, both being members of the MMEA. And I will begin by reading the letter submitted by the mayor. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, please find enclosed for your review an order recommending a change to the city salary ordinance, Chapter 125, to increase the compensation for the city's head electrician and updated job description. I am proposing to increase it to $81,283.77 to be consistent with other communities and the city's head Havoc technician salary. These two positions are part of Marlborough Municipal Employee Association. Due to the technical attributes of each position, they will work hand in hand together and are crucial to maintaining the city's infrastructure. In today's market, comparing costs from other communities and costing out electrical services, it is in the city's best interest to maintain the head electrician in-house. Due to the difficulty in filling open positions, there is no need of a transfer to fund this increase, and Commissioner Dival will be available at a future meeting to address any questions. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor. And what I'll do is I'll bring Commissioner Dival up for the committee if they have any questions. Good evening, Commissioner Dival.
Good evening.
And what I will do is I will leave it up to the committee if anyone has any questions. Over the years, I know speaking with the mayor, I do support these increases, trying with other communities, trying to fill some of these positions has been a little bit on the difficult side. But I'll open that up to Council Orm.
Thank you, and I agree with you. I concur, Mr. Chair. This is an important position, and if we're going to attract people, we're going to need to make sure we're in the market of reasonable salaries. Just a question on the last sentence of the mayor's letter. It just says there is no need of a transfer to fund this increase. Was it internal, is what you're planning?
Yes. So we have vacancies within facilities that we can use that money to for the increase in this position.
Okay, for this fiscal year, right? And then
Yes.
next fiscal year, you'll budget it accordingly?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Council Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And a couple questions. I do support the increase, but I was curious, from the tables we received, is it a $10,000 increase from the initially listed salary? Is that correct?
From the current salary right now, yes.
Okay.
Per year, right.
And how many vacancies do we have? I know, as Councilor Oram mentioned, we're able to fund it this year, and hopefully other positions will be filled in the future. So would it be a sustained increase over time?
Well, so the vacancies that we're looking at right now is the Assistant Commissioner of Facilities. We keep talking about that position and not being able to fill it. And so that's ongoing. And, you know, every week that we don't have a person in that position is money that we can use elsewhere within facilities. So that's where we would go to find the funding for this position. You know, longer term, this would be built into the budget.
Okay, that's good to hear, because obviously we want to be able to sustain that in the future. And I know we've been working hard to kind of build our salaries up to be on par with other communities across a wide range of positions, which I think is really great and we should continue to do. Is this like at a median compared to peer communities, or like, I guess, where were we in comparison at the lower rate and where are we now in terms of being competitive?
So that's a sliding scale right now, as you might imagine, with the environment we're in. You know, we're all these cities and towns in the private sector as well, all competing with each other to bring in the best talent, and that comes with a cost. And I'm finding that some communities, you know, very recently have increased their rates, you know, wholesale 5-6% across the board. Obviously, that's hard to do and hard to budget for and hard to sustain, as you mentioned. So This position, we are aligning with our head HVAC technician position, where they're both heads of their trade, so to speak. I like having the parity there. Overall, will we have to look at rates, for other positions? I'm not certain on that, but we may have to get there at some point. But we're looking internally first and foremost, and we see the parity there between the HVAC technician and this proposal, and we feel pretty confident that that's where we need to be right now.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. And, as these positions hopefully get filled, please update us. It'd be great to know that the increases made a difference and people were able to take those positions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council Plummer. Any, Council Doucette?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So the current position is open, or is it being filled and you're just trying to keep the person there?
Current position is filled.
Okay.
We have our head electrician now who's worked for the city for a while. And I'm fearful that we may lose that person. That person is a very dutiful worker here that's been here for a while and does an excellent job. And with people in the trades, the competition is even more fierce. Because if you're an electrician and working in the private sector right now, you can basically name your price. And we need to keep good people here.
So I appreciate you taking the proactive role of addressing this before waiting for him to leave. So thank you for that. And I agree completely as far as electrical and plumbing. They seem to be, very hard to find someone who's competent and able to get the work done. So, yeah, it's a real competitive market out there for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Council Doucette. Council Landers?
Thank you, Chairman. What I'd like to see, I haven't been around when we created these jobs back 35 years ago. We took the HVAC guy, we took him from the Marlborough Hospital, I remember it well, and he kept the high school going for years, because as you know, we had a lot of trouble. We corrected it, but a lot of trouble with the mental aid. So I'd like to see us in a position, all right, that people come in, all right, and they stay. Because what I see in some departments, in some positions, someone comes in for, say, 3 years. The first year, they get familiar with the job. Second year, they get familiar with the city. And the third year, they're looking to other cities and towns. So I'm glad that we're doing this, Mr. Chairman, and get someone that, will give us a good 5 to 10 years, whatever it takes, So I certainly, when this comes before the full council, I certainly will support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Landers. Good points.
If no further questions, motion to approve?
Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 22-100-8662A. Proposed salary ordinance, Chapter 125, Personnel, Section 6, to increase the salary for the head electrician to a maximum of $81,283.77, consistent with HVAC technician salary. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carries 5-0. Going to the second item is order number 22-100-8662B, communication from Mayor Vigent with the proposed job description for the head electrician in the Marlborough's Municipal Employees Association in accordance with City Code Chapter 125, Personnel and preparation of the classification descriptions. I'll open that up to the committee. Council Permit.
Thank you. I just had a question. I'm imagining since the position is filled and that was just a salary increase, that the job description remains the same. Is that correct?
We are actually approving the job description for the head electrician.
Right. So has it been changed from the original one or no?
I'd have to ask Councilor Duvall. I think there was some wording in there, I think, because...
Just wanted to be clear if what the changes were.
Because you're mirroring the HVAC salary, so I'll... Good question, Councilor Perman. Thank you. Thank you,
So
Commissioner.
when we looked at this position and looked at the comparison between with the HVAC technician, Where we had made some changes to that previously, we aligned the two job descriptions, with respect to their individual fields, yes, but getting them together in terms of the flow of the job description, we made a few changes here and there to modernize it more or less.
Thank you, that's helpful. And I know that these two positions have been paired together. Are there other positions that sort of match in terms of salary and job description that these are on par with?
At this moment in time, no.
Okay.
We may need to make some adjustments in the future, but that's another conversation.
Okay, well, please keep us updated if that is the case, because I like the idea that there are these parity across positions that are like, so that makes a lot of sense.
Good point.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council Crum. Any further discussion? I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve?
Motion has been made and second to approve order number 22-100-8662B. Proposed job description for the head electrician in the Marlborough Municipal Employees Association, in accordance with the City Chapter Code, Chapter 125 Personnel, Section 5, Preparation Classifications, Description. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? It carries 5-0. Moving on to the next item is order number 22-100-8678, communication from Mayor Vigil with proposed salary ordinance, Chapter 125, Personnel, Section 6, to create a new position entitled Substance Use Prevention Coordinator and Intervention Specialist within the Health Department with 7-step salary table, minimum $58,000 to a maximum $65,317.42 for a 35-hour week, together with required job description in accordance with the City Code, Chapter 125, Personnel, Section 5, Preparation of Classification Descriptions. And I will begin by reading the letter submitted by the mayor. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, I'm submitting for your approval a request to create a new position, Substance Use Prevention Coordinator and Intervention Specialist, to work collaboratively with the school department, police department, and the Marlborough Alliance for Prevention. This position will be benefited 35 hours per week, supervised by the Director of Public Health. The position will be located in the Health Department and also will be required to handle outreach in the schools and general public. Enclosed is a job description and ordinance amendment with the salary table for your review. The funding for this position will derive from the marijuana impact fees combined with the National Opioid Settlement Funds. The salary table was derived by researching similar-sized communities. A future transfer will be submitted upon City Council approval. Thank you for your consideration. Please do not hesitate to contact me with any questions. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor. I will also read a couple letters submitted by President Ossing and Councilor Roby. I'll begin with the first letter from President Ossing. Chairman Irish and members of the Finance Committee, I would like to offer the following comments on the above city order regarding the Substance Use Prevention Coordinator and Intervention Specialist. While I am in general agreement with the need to address substance abuse on a more aggressive scale, I am concerned with creating a position that comes with full city benefits, pension, OPEB, health, dental, etc., without fully understanding the ability to measure the success of the position. The city should have the ability in the early years of the establishment of the position to determine if it is being successful and adjust accordingly. The Finance Committee should discuss the following. One, include a sunset clause that will require the City Council Mayor to ensure the position is providing the anticipated results. This should be a 1, 2, 3-year review period. In this manner, the city would not be locked into any position that is not delivering. Consider contracting the position for the first year to ensure the desired performance results are being achieved. Consider changing the work hours from 35 hours a week to 40 hours per week. The job description should identify the position's needs to actively pursue grant opportunities. And a reporting section, this position should be required to provide the mayor/city council a report twice a year, April, October, highlighting the accomplishments of the position. Sincerely, Mike Galossing, City Council President. Next, I will read the letter submitted from Councilor Roby. Councilor Harris, unfortunately, I will not be attending tonight's meeting, but wanted to express my opinion on the new substance abuse coordinator. While I agree the need might be there for some sort of person, I am not sure of the need for a full-time city employee or what exactly that will coordinate. I have always been of the opinion that our human services person should be a full-time employee, yet we continue to contract it out. Why? And why one contract and one employee? Are there grant opportunities to pay for this position? If not, I agree they should be looking for grants to help provide services to those in need. And that's for Councilor Roby. And I will bring up the mayor, and then the finance committee, who has any questions, can begin asking those questions too.
Should we also bring up Director Garside?
Oh, Director Garside.
on his
Thank
way.
you.
Okay.
Thank you. I didn't see him. Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Director.
This is a position that actually we talked about, I had worked on with Superintendent Bergeron before his departure, probably a year or two ago, and we just never brought it to fruition. Mr. Garside brought me a request for this position probably a couple of months ago. In the meantime, we received the award for the opioid settlement on that national lawsuit, and that has to be used for these types of programs, some type of program similar to this. So this year, we're probably going to be receiving in the area of $85,000 that we'll be looking at using for this type of program. We also have to deal with the Marijuana Commission, the Cannabis Commission in Boston, that wants to decide, they're deciding they want to play with our contracts that we have with the marijuana companies, and, you know, they want to be big brother down there. So they're going to be overseeing our contracts moving forward. Hopefully they don't change their mind and actually want to go backwards. But again, that's funds that we're going to have to take a look at on how we're spending, and it's supposed to be for additional costs that you have because you have this facility in the city, when actually there really aren't too many costs that come along with those facilities that we have. We've been very fortunate. We have 3 open at this point. We haven't had any issues, and I think the last one that opened, the chief actually notified you that after a very short time, there was no need for continuous 24-hour, security down there. So although they put their own security plans in place that the chief approves, additional staff is not required. So in facing the opioid settlement, and there's another one actually in the works that could be similar or a larger size, I would figure we'd be a little proactive. And again, Mr. Garside came up with this program to run out of his office. We don't do a very good job in educating, first of all, the kids and the rest of the community about the issue that's out there. We're kind of falling behind a little bit. Kathy Leonard's done a tremendous job as a volunteer for the committee we do have. She runs the vigil that we had a few weeks ago. But again, she's a volunteer, so she's putting a lot of time in. I want to get programs into the schools for the kids themselves. We've worked with Mary Murphy and had her input on the job description on, I didn't want issues with unions or anything else. If we're bringing someone in, obviously someone in the 3rd grade, you're teaching completely different than someone in the high school level, but they all have some need for education. So I've had the opportunity to speak with Councilor Wagner. I've talked to the president also about this, and some of the suggestions he has in there I have no issue with. I think Councilor Wagner was, and I'll let her speak for herself, but some of the things her and I talked about was taking it to the next level, and we're not equipped to be a clinic or open a facility. We're not looking to go that far with it, but I would definitely take any suggestions someone has to try to do a better job than we have done and try to do a better job in the future. So that's my spiel, and I'll turn it over to
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Gatside.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like the mayor mentioned, this has been a volunteer effort. Community members at large, representatives from police, the schools, the clergy making up our Marlborough Alliance for Prevention. And it's been a great group, but it really doesn't have the day-to-day focus that the city needs. The funding, as the mayor mentioned, really, there's some pretty strict, as I read them, requirements of spending that money. So I think this is certainly a good use of it. It would spearhead the program, it would keep it consistent and growing versus, now it's a monthly meeting, and I try to champion it a little bit, I get pulled off. Kathleen Leonard's the chairman of MAP now, and she does a wonderful job, but again, she's a volunteer. So it really, I think it'll bring us into really the present day and give it what it's due, or probably long due, to have some resources thrown at this. So I was pleasantly surprised the mayor was, when I approached him, he was open to it. And,
Thanks a lot.
So we met, as the mayor said, we met with police and school department folks and MAP folks, and want to make sure we're all on the same page and we saw a good fit. And I think what you had in your packets, what the mayor sent along, represents a pretty good understanding of the responsibilities of the job. Any questions, just surely entertain.
Thank you, Director. It's such a serious issue to the complete Commonwealth, the United States, and I know over 107,000 Americans died last year. Those are CDC numbers. Just the fentanyl alone is probably 75 or 80% of those deaths. And I know you say education, and that's amazing, and this is just an amazing position to have. I hope some of that education is also, and this is a tough subject, that a lot of these the fentanyl is coming in from China, the southern border, and they're manufactured in Mexico, and the education for young and old is that these drugs are, however they're marketing them, it's amazing that they're marketing them like they are on packaging, and how dangerous this is. So it is a lot of, it's probably more than just education, but I'll leave that up to the rest of the committee. But thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Director, for going forward with this, because it is definitely a very serious issue for the United States. I'll open that to the rest of the committee. Councilor Tiona. Councilor Brown.
Also,
Excuse me.
Councilor Tiona, that's fair.
I apologize.
Thank you. So for me, I don't want to minimize this whatsoever. This is actually something I'm very passionate about. It's very important to me, and issues with substance abuse, I think most of us sitting in the room, it's probably in some way, shape, or form, if it hasn't hit someone in our family, probably a loved one that we're close to otherwise in friendship. So for me, this is something I'm really, really passionate about. But one thing in creating a new position, something that stuck out for me when I just received the comments from President Ossing, is one of the items that he had said, it really mirrored one of my feelings when I had reviewed the information about the potential of this very important position coming to the city, is to potentially consider contracting the position for the first year to ensure the desired performance or results are being achieved. I just wasn't sure how the outcomes would be measured, and if it would be possible after maybe a first year to get weigh-in from some of those groups that were mentioned, school department, police department, MAP, Director of Public Health, about some of the program strengths and weaknesses to continue to even tailor the program to best benefit the city and the residents. So I wasn't sure, now that the mayor had mentioned the pieces about things that we might have to answer to, our responsibilities for receiving certain funds. Would there be any difference in creating a contracted position versus having it be a full-time benefited position?
A couple things on that. First of all, I think the protection that maybe the council could get from the position itself, because I don't disagree with the president, is put a sunset on, if you put on June 30th, 2024, that gives a good year and a half to get things moving on it before it actually would go away, because it's probably not going to be filled for a couple more months, 3 months. As far as the contractor goes, because of employment regulations, it would be really difficult, because we wouldn't be able to direct the company on different things, and it runs into issues with housing them in the city, as opposed to, you know, someone being housed out of the city. And I know Councilor Roby mentioned our human services. We have more human services available today than we ever had in the history of the city, by far. We pay the United Way. United Way has the backing of SMOC, and we have tremendous services here. But you can't tell them how to do things. You know, that's the only problem that we have with contracting. So that one I would think would be a little bit of an issue. But as far as putting a sunset on so the council is comfortable, okay, we're jumping into this, it's a new program. It's going to change, it's going to evolve, it's going to morph into something, you know, more. I'm sure and you know, Councilor Wagner will say we're kind of looking at it as a simplistic position, and we know it's going to be different, but I don't want to set it up here and not hit there. I want to work into it and try to build on what we can put together.
Thank you.
Director.
Just to respond to that, if I might. So we've used contractors in the past, some successful, some not as successful, but certainly if I have the opportunity to have an employee in-house that we can shape a little bit, we can stay in complete touch with what they're doing or not doing, I've found it's worked out much better, right? I've used visiting nurses before. They fill a gap. They're a great service for a municipality that, you know, does not consist of 40,000 people and have some of the substance use issues that Marlborough or any city of this size is going to have. So, like the mayor mentioned, to review this position, subject to funding 18 months out or what have you, I certainly would be okay with something like that. And if at such time, you know, it didn't seem like a good fit. I also wonder what type of candidates, A, are coming through the door as a public position, as a benefit position, and then I wonder as a contractor, probably not the same caliber as coming through the door as a contractor. And maybe 18 months from now, maybe there'll be groups that see the need, and there'll be other contractors out there that might fit the bill. But I think one of the reasons the mayor was championing this thing was that we feel there's going to be positions posted, and there has been, and additional ones, and it's going to be a little bit of a challenge getting someone who, you know, is a go-getter and can get things done without having to micromanage them, and, you know, really an experienced person, if you will. So we could be back here in 3 months saying no one's come through the door and we're looking for a contractor, but, you know, that, I think first order for me preferably would be a person who's here every day, and we can kind of guide them in regards to what we know about the city and who's who, and have a better pulse of the program.
Thank you.
Sure.
All set, Councilor? Councilor Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate this is so sorely needed, and I appreciate it, and I appreciated the conversation with the mayor and trying to keep it in perspective, because I was definitely 10 steps down the road. The thing that stood out to me, and that's why I think it's better to start with the 35 and pay someone a higher rate, because you need a particular caliber person. I would like to see and I'd be happy to have more conversation with this. Just to clarify, too, my background as an MSW, and I've actually been a clinical director at in a residential treatment program. I've had a lot of experience with both personally and family and in treating substance use. And where we often, the big we, you know, not us personally at Marlborough, but in general, when well-intentioned people see this is a problem, jumping into it as strictly education and trying to see things in isolation misses the mark. And particularly in today's world, where the opioids that are a problem are often doctor prescribed and sitting on the parent's shelf, and you're trying to talk to the kid about the big bad drug dealer who's lurking behind the corner. It's like a whole different world today. So not really being understanding what the problem is. And my first reaction was, and I'm not seeing, I'm glad we had the conversation, and I'm not saying this is what it is, but what we don't want to do is, it's just a matter of information, and if kids only knew drugs are bad, they'd just say no. We've been down that road. It doesn't work. That's not what's going on. So my concern is we have to have someone I think we really feel is capable, and this is a partnership. They're going to wade into this. And you're right about micromanaging. They can't be in multiple schools. You can't have somebody who's starting at the very beginning that needs to be told, here's your day, here's your day. They need to be able to go in, build those relationships, build trust, understand what they're seeing. So, I would love to see, it says, we use the language preferred, at least mental health and addiction training so that a person understands what it is they're seeing, because it's so much more complex. And we saw that with the DARE program. It's not in isolation, a kid's going to be offered something and they have to learn to be strong and say no. What's going on at home? What's the mental health situation? What are they exposed to? What are they dealing? It's so much bigger than, again, they just need that one piece of information. But information is crucial, and we're not starting with a team of people. We're starting with one person. It's a good hourly rate. I'd like to see the hourly rate stay high so we could increase the hours versus the 40 hours. Quick calculation brings it down to like 27 as opposed to almost 32. So better to have the higher hourly rate and increase it, I think. And once we see the impact, and then that clarity around expectations is going to be huge, because we can't, have those. And I'm not saying this is here, but that's on us, I think, to really have clear what is the expectation for this person in this role, because it can't be, solve the addiction problem in the school system, and you didn't and it can't be a slippery thing that keeps moving. Very clear, because this is going to be a limited scope. There's only so much this person can do. And we even talked about, I wish the person could, see as problems are there, be able to refer to services, but the mayor is quick to point out in that conversation, there's such a dearth of services out there. Even if we had the money and manpower to do that, there's no beds, there's no programs, it's so little to refer to. So this is going to be limited in scope, but still something is better than nothing. So I was really glad to see that this is a start, and again, happy to be available for any conversations, and would love to see, again, that only thing or some kind of a required language. They have to have some training in mental health or some training in addiction, so we weed out the people with good intentions.
And I can tell you, maybe in 2 years, John comes back to me and wants 3 more people for, working under here. I hope that's the case, that it's so successful, we can expand on it. He would have had a hard sell, and I would have had a hard sell to say, I'm starting a new department with 5 people. Can I have funding for 5 people? But it's going to take a lot more than one person to solve our problem, but we're hoping to do something.
If I could just add too, we hope that we have a licensed social worker coming through the door, someone certified in recovery, but we don't know who's coming through the door. So we wanted to leave it open, someone that certainly has experience and can provide guidance and referrals and hopefully counseling. But I think it was the legalese too. We just said, to give us some freedom. We don't know who's coming through the door. So that's how we ended up there. I think if you read it, it says preferred, and we would stick to that until the list of candidates got, so narrow that we had to do something other.
Thank you, Councilor. Very good points. Council Perlman, and I'll go to Council Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to commend you both. I think it's very important to have more attention to the substance abuse problem across the board, and I appreciate the opportunity to have a specific staff member dedicated to this work. I am in favor of it being like an in-house position because I think, as Councilor Wagner mentioned, the ability to build relationships across the different departments, particularly with the schools, I think that does take time, and to have someone who's here regularly, I think is really important. I have a couple of questions, I guess. In the essential job descriptions, and I know it was mentioned about the engagement with the schools, would they have a direct, I guess, staff counterpart that they'd be connecting with, or would it be across the board with different staff at the schools?
Well, we worked with the superintendent to make sure that this person will be able to go in and do a program in the 4th grade, or maybe they bring in someone to do the program in the 4th grade, but they're going to be working with the schools themselves. Again, we didn't want to run into union issues between the school unions and the city unions and that type of thing, so, but she was pretty confident that we wouldn't have those types of issues, so. But at this point, there's one person citywide. Right now, we have one volunteer, and that's it, so.
Okay, that's helpful to know, and I agree with some of the comments that the council president made regarding how do we track the position. I think having like a 2-year set would be a sufficient amount of time. I know you mentioned the June 2024. I think that gives enough of a benchmark to really see the success of the position without being locked in and maybe kind of pivoting what the direction is through the learnings. And then I was also going to mention, I know we kind of talked about some of the preferred qualifications. I think if this person could be bilingual, that would also be a useful benefit. I know there was some reference to like cultural competency, but not necessarily language. And I think given the demographics of the community, that would be very useful. And I guess another point, kind of how broad the substance scope is. I know a lot of young people, unfortunately, might be using e-cigarettes and other forms of substance use. And I think that that would be something I'd want to make sure is included in the conversation around the position scope.
Yeah, we lump tobacco in with e-cigarettes.
Okay.
Certainly.
That's helpful. So I will, defer back to Councilor Oram, but I'm happy to make some motions around amendments.
I'm just going to go to Councilor Dumas.
Okay, yes.
Thank you, Councilor Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So can we just clarify that the opioid settlement is $85,000, roughly, you think? Did we say a dollar amount or no? For the opioids?
60.
16, okay. And that's a one-time settlement?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, the
I thought you
85
meant
is the-
salary. No, it's a settlement over 10 years,
Yeah, it's 15. It's through 38.
so it's a long-term settlement. The first year, it's 86,000, something like that.
Okay.
And then it changes next year.
To a
But
lower amount?
It's approximately 900,000.
I think it's 771,000. I just looked at it today.
That directly comes to the city of Marlborough?
Comes to Marlborough.
Okay.
Over 15 years.
Over 15 years? Thank you, Director.
Oh,
There's
wow.
another one being negotiated that could be similar.
Okay.
So on a yearly basis, it seems to range from $28,000 to $48,000 is what I saw.
This
on
year
settlement.
is a pretty big one, Paul.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Okay. I'm for the sunset clause, so to speak, from 18 to 24 months, but I would like to put a caveat to say that the sunset clause starts when the position starts. The only reason I say that is because if you can't get someone for 6 months, because the salary, it seems to be a little bit on the lower side, so if you can't find someone for 6 months, then they only have a year, and that doesn't make sense to me. So if that's an agreement, I think it should start when they start rather than, I don't want them to be behind the 8 ball when they first come in. Unless you guys know someone that you're going to tap on someone's shoulder and said, hey, we have this position, but if we're opening it up, then I think,
Opening it up.
then my concern is that we may not get someone sooner than later, so I'd rather,
I don't disagree with you.
right, so I'd rather
So
start.
at
when
the
they
start, at the start
At
of
the
the
start
position.
date, yeah. That's just my personal, and I don't need to know what the expectations are. I think it should just be more of a review process to see what they're doing, rather than just more of a check-in, rather than just set these expectations, because I personally don't know what that expectation should be, and I don't know if anyone else has the capability on this council to do so, other than Councilor Orem maybe, but other than that, I would just like it to be more of a review than to set certain standards, but that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you,
I think a
Councilor
good opportunity when we come in with the budget, because it still is gonna have to be funded by the council, even though we're getting it from another source.
Sure.
You know,
That's true.
Council Ossing's not here, so I can say this. I know some of you love to ask the department heads, so what'd you do this year? And that's why we ask for that backup information, even though a lot of times it's not discussed, it's in your packets in the budget. And I think that's a good time to come in and say, okay, here's what we did this year. We want to keep going and
Right.
give us another 65,000.
That makes sense. I'm going to, Council Landers?
Yeah, just a couple quick comments. You know, I've followed my former student Kathy Leonard since she has started that program. She's an amazing person. But I'll tell you something, what I saw this weekend. I happened to be up at the Marlborough Hospital for about 7 or 8 hours in the emergency room. There was a young man that came in with 4 cops, all right? And they found him somewhere in the city, I'm not gonna tell you where, unconscious. And they brought him in, they worked on him, and then they got him going, and then he got very rough and tough again. It wasn't that far from where my wife was lying on a gurney, all right? But, you know, eventually, they took him out in handcuffs. You know, so sad, so sad. I happen to listen to the scanner quite a bit. So I guess what bothers me here, how many positions have we tried to create that we put a sunset clause there? What it tells me, if I was applying for that job, let's assume it'll be someone out of a fine institution, probably with a master's, so a little bit of clinical experience, you know, it's 58,000, it's not a hell of a lot of money, all right? It takes away from, do we really want this when we're talking money? Don't we realize out there how bad it is? Think about it. And we're spending 15 or 20 minutes on a sunset clause, this and that. How many times have we had a sunset clause for a position? Is it because the type of people we're dealing with that we're worried about that this program won't go? I personally think you'd get a better candidate when they apply for this job, and there's no sunset clause, there's no pressure. The person's gonna come in, get a contract, you know, an employment contract. Because you don't hire a contractor to do a position like this. This position has to, this person has to come in, know they can do a good job, they want to do a good job, and they're going to be here for X number of years. So let's be careful. It just seems like we're spending the wrong amount of time on a program that's needed. That's not a lot of money. I'm not sure how good a person we can get sometime. And that's what I had said before, that last meeting we had there. I gotta be careful, you know, what you offer people, what you want people, because I don't want this person to come in, do a hell of a job, and then go east down a couple towns and get more money. So let's feel that we need this. We don't have to worry about someone coming in and not doing the job. Let's have enough confidence that we're gonna hire someone that will come in and do the job, you know, work with Kathy Leonard. And the important part about this is also to work with the school department. The school department has some pretty good people up there, you know, but they're not gonna get out in the community like this individual would. But they certainly, this person would work in conjunction with school psychologists and some of our other professionals up there. And this is a real professional position, so I wouldn't think about a sunset clause. I mean, I have enough confidence that will get a person, and we'll do a good job. That's all, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Landers. I think the mayor can refresh my memory. I think one of the first one that comes to my mind with the sunset clause was the code enforcement officer. When there was a little hesitation on hiring someone there in the inspectional services, that did work out very well. That's the first one that I believe comes to my mind. Councilor Orem.
And all I want to say is excellent comments from all my fellow councilors. Excellent comments. And Council Landers, I'm right with you on that sunset clause.
Takes away from it.
Working in the field, working with regional groups on this matter, I don't think you're going to find an MSW, social worker, for $58,000. I think you're going to have to start at step 5, at 69. We just did this with the head electrician. I don't want to lose this person, whoever it may be. As Councilor Wagner said, the importance of this position, the needed professional background and experience. I don't think we're going to attract anyone at $58,000. Not in this world, not in Marlborough, not in Metro Boston. But besides that, I agree with everyone that said it's needed. It's definitely needed. And I would like to see this position filled as quick as possible. I can promise you, if you go to the police chief, probably the fire chief, because they see it front line, they're going to say the need is there. I worked with the police chief and the fire chief in Ashland, and they saw it constantly and realized the importance of having reach out to these people, an outreach worker, I mean. One of the things that they did there is if the family had an issue within the household, they would try to get the outreach worker in there immediately to help the parents or vice versa, and to help the family get through it with professional guidance. And so, again, I'm in favor of this, Mr. Mayor. I heard you speak about it at the vigil. And I said, oh, great, we're getting to the point we need to be at. Again, I know you're going to get support. I remember, it had to be back in 2012. Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you were a councilor or the mayor back then, but I suggested that the city personnel at police, fire, and ambulance all carried Narcan. And I got a lot of resistance for that. But it passed because the police chief, the fire chief, and the director of the ambulance service came to support it. And before you knew it, within 6 months, the whole state was making sure that their public safety people carried Narcan. And that's way back when. And this is not giving a black eye to Marlborough. This is everywhere. It's in the smallest towns in Massachusetts. It's in the largest cities. We have to address this. And I agree, the sunset clause, if I was going for this position, although I'm not an MSW, I wouldn't apply for it. For the amount and for not knowing if I was going to have my job in 2 years, we have to make this attractive. We have to make it attractive for the professional that's going to serve in this position. And there'll be a tremendous help to MAP. I'm sure Kathy Leonard will really appreciate having this professional there. But also, I didn't mention, but you have already mentioned it, Mr. Mayor, the superintendent. They see the need too. They see it in the front lines. We don't all the time. So again, I support this. Again, if the sunset clause is the negotiating factor, well, then we negotiate. But again, I think the budget time, I agree with you. I love reading those reports of the positions, past history of what they did the year before. And one thing in public health, may I say it to everyone, it's very hard to measure prevention. Very, very difficult. So as John knows, when he presents his budget, it's hard to say we saved so many lives because they didn't go to a restaurant and get food poisoning. It's hard to measure that. So you have to understand that too when you're looking at benchmarks. Benchmarks are very hard for public health and mental health in those areas. But again, we can look at the resource, what the resources allowed when that position gets created. So just understand that too. Very difficult to set up measurements. It can be done, but very difficult to really show the full results. And Council Landers, I agree with you. Go up to Marlborough Hospital and talk to their professionals up there. They don't have enough beds for all the needs of mental health in this city, never mind other communities, because they just don't serve Marlborough. And I know a family that went through that same thing, Council Landers, just recently. and they had to sit at the hospital for 8 hours trying to get services. So the services are definitely needed. I think we have to take our part in it, and I'm glad to hear the opioid abuse money's coming in. Jewel is going to be, they're going to be required to pay cities and towns funding as well for a court settlement. So there'll be money coming in from there. And Council Perlman, I'm glad you brought up e-cigarettes, because they're a major concern too in public health. So hopefully we can tap in, and Mr. Mayor, maybe someday it will be a department of 3 or 4 people. Right now, keep looking for the money. I see that as a great opportunity with these settlements going on. And again, I know we have some regional services, but I mentioned at the city council meeting, they come and go. That's again the reason for having a permanent position. Because the regional positions, I've seen them come and go, they're contracted, they don't last long, and they go east, Council Landers. You are 100% correct. The person in Framingham went east to Boston in the regional program. So again, I support it 100%. And I hope we can get moving on it. If we need to negotiate a sunset, give or take, but again, I think it would hurt the position. It would show less commitment, in my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. My position, I would support the sunset clause for just exactly what you said, Councilor. Good points by Councilor Andrews. Wonderful points. The goal is that this is an important position to have, spearheaded by the Mayor and Director Garza. I want this to go forward. We want the votes, we want the councilors to support this. That is the reason that I would support the sunset clause. I want to get the councilors on board to get this going as fast as we can. But Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And my thanks to Director Garside and the Mayor for bringing this up and creating this position. But, you know, there's opiates. There's still alcohol out there. That's why there's AAA. The marijuana is now legal, which is a good thing. It's keeping it clean, so you're not getting it polluted with other drugs. You know, that fentanyl gets laced with marijuana has been an issue. Doesn't happen if you don't buy it off the street. But, you know, the attendance at Marijuana Anonymous has skyrocketed since the legality of this in Massachusetts, as well as other states. People are recognizing that this is an issue. And I don't want to see this focusing on any one substance, but just in general. And then part of the education is to figure out what are the steps in the right direction for people to go. I think there is, to some extent, some education that needs to happen, particularly with the families who are involved with people who are dependent and have some addictions, you know, and helping them kind of work through this with their, you know, with their family member. Because usually the person who has the addiction is the least one to recognize it. You know, and that has always been the case. That's, you know, and so I think we need to provide a support infrastructure. And when we go in the schools, that's one issue because of the age of the kids and what's being exposed. But once they get out of school, that doesn't mean that consuming drugs stop. We also need to have other programs in place for early adults, even late adults. The opiate addiction is an issue that's happening people in their 40s and 50s sometimes. You know, they just get caught into it because of an accident, you know, medical prescription or something like that. So, you know, this is a very complex situation. We are getting money specifically from these, you know, from these settlements and the marijuana tax. So are other municipalities, so that there's demand for expertise and funding out there available from the different communities, and we're now going to start fighting over these resources. So I agree completely with the point that we need to make sure that this is a reasonable, you know, salary for this type of expertise, because they're going to go to the highest bidder, us or someone else. But also anything we can do to make sure we get better quality people. And I'd rather have, I'm trying to be realist in looking at people who come in as a contract for a short term, and the only thing they want to really do at that point is set up the program and then possibly leave, and then go to the next one. And I think to Councilor Lander's point, and we're all agree to it, by having someone willing to commit to sow roots into our community to address this issue is just as important as filling the position itself. So I understand that there's a debate about whether or not it's going to be a sunset clause or not. However, this is getting settled out of the committee. I think at the council meeting, we'll have a vote just on that one issue. And I'm fine with that too. So we'll see how this works going forward. So thank you.
Councilor. I will go to Council Wagner, and then we will get right to the negotiating part and get this moving. So Council Wagner.
Just want to add, as the only social worker in the room, if I saw this position, it has so much potential, I would even take a pay cut to step into it, but the sunset clause would be a deal breaker because it would make me think the city's not serious, and I wouldn't want to leave a firm paid position knowing that in a year, y'all might change your mind, and I feel like where's the commitment? So I think, going at it as was submitted by the mayor, and with knowing that Director Garside would be, it sends a really bad message, and I think it's going to limit the pool of people that apply, putting something like that on the position.
Thank you, Council Wagner. Council Dumas.
Thank you. I just don't understand why we assume that the sunset clause is a job or no job caveat. Like, I don't see why the sunset clause can be a review point in 2 years to see what is working and what isn't working with this job title and job description. So for the automatic assumption that we're just going to stop this position, I think is being pretty naive. The need is there, but in 2 years or 18 months with the sunset clause, we can actually add or advocate for more assistance and to see if the position is working the way it's described now, as opposed to what's going to happen in 2 years and how much momentum this new position takes. I don't know why it has to be, oh, you're not working out, it's 2 years, goodbye. There will always be a need for this position, but we can also see what is working in 2 years with this clause. And I think that's why we as a council would like to see a little more control to see if this position is actually working, or hold some accountability with this job that we're creating. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Councilor Warren.
I don't disagree with the accountability, but working through many budgets, we can do that at the budget part of it. I think it could be an interference to attracting good employees, where when we go through the budget every year, John's going to be sitting over there, and I'm sure you're going to have questions. How is that, especially a new position, how is that position working? I think it's our, and the mayor mentioned, it's our opportunity to get reports from the department heads and make decisions. If we find that, and I don't think we're going to find this, but if the position isn't needed, then we can make a decision at the budget time. I don't think we're going to find that, but I don't want this getting lost over a sunset clause, but I, for one, do not support it. I'd be curious how many people in our subcommittee support a sunset clause. I prefer to go the budget route.
Thank you, Councilor Warren. I do support the sunset clause, and I mean, we all feel that this is a vital position to have for the city. And yes, we have the ability during budget season to fund it or not. But I think it is vital to move forward with this, and that's why I definitely would support and encourage the sunset clause. Yes, I understand where the council is coming from, but I just want to move forward and get this going for the city. Council Perman.
Thank you. To move us along, I'm happy to move some adjustments or amendments to the position.
Let's get started.
That will be helpful. So given some of the comments that have been discussed and what was received, I was going to move to, I guess, add a line under essential job functions saying the position would need to actively pursue grant opportunities.
I'm sorry, what was that for the grant?
To actively pursue grant opportunities under the job functions. I kind of looked throughout, it references working with like grant meetings or having grant experience, but not necessarily working towards additional grants, and I think that might be a nice thing to add. I know the council president recommended it, and I know we've discussed it, so I'm fine with that. And the other, I guess, amendment I would like to see is a preference for someone who is bilingual, particularly in Spanish or Portuguese, to be added. It doesn't have to be that the person has that language background, but I do think that preference should be indicated.
I'll leave that up to to committee. The other thing also to remember, besides sunset clause, is to having it to a 40-hour position. I think the mayor was perfectly fine with that, so making sure that's in there. Like I said, I am fine going forward with the 40 hours, the sunset clause, the job description for the grant opportunities and things like that. I am on board with that. I will leave that up, because I think we're going in the right direction. Council Wagner?
Point clarification, so if you're saying you're good with increasing the hours, does that mean you'd take the hourly rate based on the 35, and we're talking about more money for the position? Or are you talking about lowering an already low salary even lower, and then hope you're gonna hire a professional that knows what they're doing?
Well, one of the things is I think most positions in the city, Mr. Mayor, are 40 hours. Well,
Most part, just the department heads.
Right, right.
So I'm the only one in my office who's 40 hours.
So to clarify, I was not going to move for the 40-hour because I want to keep the higher hourly rate.
That's fine.
So I was just going to move those two items, and I also support the reporting section. I think that that goes to the accountability piece. So I was going to move to do that and see if we got a second, and then vote on that, and then we could discuss some of the other changes.
Okay. Any other?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, Councilor.
was someone ahead of me?
Nope, sir.
I would ask then that we do point by point to see how the committee reports it out.
Okay.
Might it be the sunset clause, the 40-hour position,
We can do that.
pursue the grant, that we take them step by step. I don't have anything to offer, but I will not be voting for everything that was suggested, but I'd be curious to see how my fellow subcommittee members feel about it.
Is Finance Committee okay with that?
Yes, I just would also like to add the language preference as one of the things we vote on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lynn.
So we can start with one of the first topics was the sunset clause. I would certainly be supporting that. I know Councilor Dumas mentioned it from this start of the position. We could go 1 year, 2 years.
It doesn't matter to me. I mean, I don't even have to be calling a sunset clause, as long as like a review clause or something. Like, it doesn't have to be, like I said, an all or nothing clause. Like, I'm fine with it. I just want to see I personally don't get a lot of reporting from a lot of departments. So if it's a new position that's being created, I would like to know, when we approve something, there's just a black hole and it goes down. And I would like to see, like, okay, we approve this position. Is it working? Is it not working? What can we do to help assist with this new position? Because there is a demand for it and there is a need for it across the city. I only look at it as how we as a council can support this position. It's never going to be saying, oh, it's not working. No more funding. It's only a way to assist. So that's why I don't think a sunset clause is the right verbiage. It could be a review clause or something. Like I said, it's not as black and white as for me, so it doesn't matter. But like whether it's a review clause or something.
Part of the legality, right? Because I think using sunset clause is more of a legality of keeping up with Mass General Law too, I believe. So that's why I would support having a sunset clause. We could determine if it's 1 year or 2 years.
I would think 2 years would be beneficial, or 18. I think 18 months or 2 years. I don't think a year is enough.
Okay, I would
but
support a 2 year. I would support a 2 year sunset clause.
So to clarify, you're saying it cannot be a review period? Like there is a job review after 2 years from when the person is hired, in addition to the twice reporting requirements annually? That can't be allowed, rather than a sunset? Because I definitely want to support the position, but I do think that accountability piece is really useful, especially thinking through how we can additionally support. It draws attention to the need in the position's work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I would support it, Councilor Perlman. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Obviously, I'm not voting on these, but I do have a comment about this. So the assumption, we got two scenarios like possibly we're talking about, right? So someone gets hired, gets into this role, things work perfect, things work great, we're fine with this, we move on, right? The sunset, we decide not to do it, we decide to roll forward because life is good, right? Second scenario is someone gets hired, doesn't work out for whatever reason. We've seen this happen before with other people who've been hired, right? So then we get to the end of the sunset clause And we're not concerned about the role, we're concerned about the person who's filling the role, that they're not doing the right job. That's where I'm assuming,
No, the difference is too, when you get hired as a city employee, there's the city handbook, and there's provisions in there as well if an employee does not work out to satisfaction for a good fit for the department or the city. That's one part that's separate from us, that's through personnel.
Right.
The sunset clause is for myself as a counselor, that is this position actually giving us any value in going forward with this position? It may not target the actual employee. That might be part of the benefits in the personnel department in the handbook.
okay, then I'm glad we're having this conversation, because this is the path I'm trying to get clarified on. Basically, if the sunset clause is in place, really, it's about not the person, but the role.
Correct.
Okay?
And for some,
And
yes.
I don't see the issue of abuse and drug addiction changing significantly in 2 years. Okay? My humble opinion. So I don't see how a sunset clause would have any benefit to our community. Either we address it and we continue to address it, or we don't leave it, so in 2 years from now, we walk away. Because if we walk away from this one, then within a couple of months after that, we're going to hire someone else and go through this whole process again. Because this issue is not going away.
No.
Okay, so I don't, and if we all agree that, there should be no sunset clause. So, that's all I,
But one of the reasons.
hold on. The Queen wants to speak.
Ms. Karen.
Oh,
Ms.
geez.
Karen.
The city council would vote for the position to be effective for 3 years. And at the end of the 3 years, the position would go away unless the mayor, in his wisdom, or her wisdom, writes that before the sunset clause ends, this position is warranted, maybe the salary gets increased, maybe the hours are longer, maybe another person is added. But that position that you would create now would be for 3 years from a certain point and it would end at that point.
But the mayor at any time, and I wish you were on the mic, because you're very clear about the description, and I appreciate your talk, Karen. But anytime in those 3 years, the mayor can come down again and say, hey, I want to change it, I want to add someone to it, or something like that. So you don't need the sunset clause for the mayor to do that. So again, I don't see the benefit of a sunset clause to address an issue that is really impacting our community.
The sunset clause makes the ordinance go away. It's black and white. It
Yeah,
goes away.
right.
So if you guys come up with some other language and want to propose it at the council level, or whatever you do, like I said, it's your vote. It's not my vote. Here's my proposal.
I understand.
I'm trying to get this implemented, and I'm willing to bend to do that, but it's got to be effective too.
Councilor Dumas.
The benefit to me is because we literally just had a change of the head electrician position, and who knows how long that needed to be updated. The 2 years secures us for that we take a look at the position to see what is working and what isn't working. Because if we do know that nothing's going to change when it comes to the opioid crisis. We know that. So why not look at the position in 2 years to see what is actually working and what isn't working? Otherwise, it may fall by the wayside for the next 10 years to see what is working and what isn't working. It just holds HR and us accountable to see if the position is actually working and how we can tweak it to make it a better position for the city of Marlborough. Because this is a very lengthy job description, and then owning a business, your job changes over the course of years or 2 years based upon the need. So this just allows us to put in things in place to allow, it's not a way to cancel the position or deny it, it's a way to check in to see what is working and what isn't working. That's all it is to me, because like, as you said, this position is needed, and it's going to be needed for a very long time. But I want to make sure that the position is as effective as it can be, being such a new role to the city. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wagner.
I'm all for review, but I feel like this falls into that category again. What do we have our department directors for? I don't believe that Director Garside's gonna hire this position and never look at it again. And it's the people who are directly working, the school officials that the person's work, the people who are directly working or need to review this and change the, update the job and change it to reflect what's really needed. And that, I believe, will happen. That's what we do with all our jobs. And we've seen these descriptions come down and change, because with the logic, and all due respect, Councilor Dumas, why don't we have this on every position in the city? Every position. Do we need an electrician? Do we need a plumber? Do we need a code inspector? Is that now going to become city council's job to look at every department and decide whether a job needs to exist anymore? I mean, imagine if all the jobs had sunset clause. Sunset clause is, like we clarified, it means the job goes away. And again, as someone who'd be potentially looking at the position, that to me communicates we're not serious. We're gonna give this a test drive for 2 years, and maybe this will go away, and people aren't gonna disrupt their lives and change a secure position to take this, knowing in 2 years they might be, or 18 months, they might be looking for a job again, already not getting paid very much. So I think it's gonna limit who you're gonna get, and it puts in our position, I think we have directors, very capable directors in our departments for a reason, and let them do their job.
Thank you, Councilor Perlman.
Thank you. Given kind of the way the discussion is, isn't there a way just to have the reporting section be more robust? Not have a sunset and just say, you know, at the end of X number of years, there will be a review with the city council and the mayor, or they have to submit a more robust, you know, component in the budget. Like, I think that would allow for the accountability, and we could specialize that it's this position because it is new, because of its wide reaching across the community, that it warrants additional review, rather than having a sunset where there might be concerns about the position, and then it is in addition to some of the reporting requirements. I'd be happy with a once-a-year report, and then after 3 years, having a more robust review of the position through the reporting that they submit. It could be an agenda item, an update from the position. We discuss it. We see if there's something to do with the job description, check the salary. All of that can still exist without this concern of someone being employed or not.
Can I comment on that, Mr. Chairman?
Director, go ahead.
So along the same lines of thinking, I was wondering if a review by myself and my board to city council in 2 years wouldn't serve the same process, understanding at that point this group could do whatever they want with the job, but it wouldn't put that line in the sand that I think some of us are hesitant to do.
Council Andrews?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I'm confused by the whole thing, of this last 25 minutes of conversation, all right? If I was the mayor and the head of health, I'd withdraw it and give it to the school department. Not that they're perfect, but we're talking about a professional position, all right? We didn't have this conversation with some of these other jobs that we have. This is a professional position we're talking about. I think Councilman Wagner is the only one that realizes what this position involves, the background you need, all right, and, you know, what this person could accomplish. I mean, we're going on and on and on. Somehow, that sunset clause snuck in here tonight, all right? And it's been the topic of conversation. I can't remember the last time we've had a position for sunset. I mean, I don't know. I had the feeling that I don't know if this position has the backing of the city council. I really mean it. But yet, we all know it's needed. Every one of us has talked about the need for it. The Kathy Leonard program and this and that, and the problems that we have in the city. I'm just really surprised. I go about appointing a position or creating a job with the positive feeling that it's going to work. And I don't worry about 2 years or 3 years of the sunset. And you're not talking, you know, $150,000 position. And as someone mentioned, and I think I mentioned too, I don't know if you're going to get anybody at 58. That's only a little over $1,000 a week. And as far as the hours, and I know this is the way we work in the school department, we didn't, the secretaries, custodians work 35 or 40 hours. But in a professional position, you don't punch a clock, you don't, if you have something cooking, all of a sudden, your school day's 8 to 3, and all of a sudden, there's a kid out in the schoolyard, having some type of problem. You go out and you do it. You might be involved for 2 hours with the police or the medical group, something like that. This is a medical position. But let's go in with this, the idea that this position is gonna last and maybe expand. So why the hell are we worried about a sunset clause or let it go away? There's ways to stop a position without having a sunset clause. But as I mentioned before and somebody else mentioned, if I was a professional person, with a degree or two, I wouldn't apply for this job. It's as simple as that, people. So I don't know what you're after here. Huh? I'm not sure. But I think we've wasted 25 minutes.
Thank you, Councilor Leonard. I think the idea is of getting the opioid settlement funds, I think that may have had a play in it as well as why we're having a sunset clause. Obviously, you explained how much funds would be coming to cities and towns. I think that may have been one of the factors as well going in there. But I would like to get this wrapped up, and I think we're all on board to moving forward. And I do want to have councils on board to go forward with this. So I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve as presented.
Do we have a second? Seeing none, any other?
Mr. Chairman, motion to review the 4 items that we were originally going to review. Sunset clause, 35 or 40-hour position, pursue grant opportunities within the job description, and I don't know if you want me to say bilingual, Council Perlman, or another wording for the language.
I think bilingual is appropriate, or
And bilingual.
additional language.
That we review those 4 items at the beginning.
Now, remember, having bilingual, that could entail more salary and things of that nature, but it's a great idea. Absolutely, it's a great idea.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right, so let's
I
make
think
them.
you should do it in a reverse order, maybe leave the sunset to be the last item, just so we move a little bit
Reverse the
quicker.
order, Mr. Chairman. I'm
I
okay
just
with
feel
that.
like we're not going to get anything accomplished, even going,
Chairman.
No, I start with bilingual, then go, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, then pursue the grant opportunities, the 40-hour, and then end up with the sunset clause as we vote through the process as a subcommittee. But I interrupted the mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask if you consider tabling this, let me come down with a couple changes to it, to the committee, and hopefully that'll satisfy the council.
I will leave that up to the committee. I mean, I'll be honest, my only point is the sunset clause. The hours position, Council Wagner said 35, I'm fine with that. So it's just minor things that we could certainly wrap up. I think the mayor is fine with the sunset clause. I'm okay with if it stays at 35 hours. But Council Perman.
Well, I was just going to reflect, and I appreciate the mayor's comment, what Director Garside mentioned of their review and submitting that to the council. We didn't really follow up on that, and I think that to me is sufficient instead of a sunset clause. So I would like to support that. I don't know how the other councilors feel, but I feel like that is something that might address some concerns.
Mr. Chairman?
I would second that. I would just want the Director of Public Health to have a review period in 2 years to see how we can better assist this position, whether we need to grow it or change the job description. That's what I wanted from the get-go, because we need this position, and I don't think that one position is enough. So I want to make sure that we can assist this position in its entirety.
Okay, Councilor Brown, and then we'll go back to making a motion.
I just want to support what Christian just said, and also backing off of what Samantha had said. The review from Director Garside and his board, I feel like their report, that would satisfy exactly what I was speaking of as well, but I also wanted to mention that, speaking to what Councillor Wagner had mentioned about the 35 hours versus the 40, based on what the salary is, I also support the 35 hours versus 40, based on the pay and what that would break down to for an hourly rate.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Owen.
Mr. Chairman, I think we have enough information to send back to the mayors, so unless anyone disagrees, I'm going to ask that we table this, send it back to the mayor, and readdress it once received back from the mayor.
Couldn't we vote on it right now because we had consensus?
Well, I tried that, and, well, you can try again.
I would like to get this going this evening. I think we're right there. I don't want to put it off. It's
I'll
important.
withdraw my motion. I don't like tabling
I mean,
things.
I'm
I'll
walking,
withdraw
I mean,
that.
Councilor Dumas mentioned
Yeah, I'll
about the
just,
sunset clause, we can do
Right.
that.
I
I'm willing to
motion-
go forward with that.
I motion to approve order number 22-18678 with the review after 2 years at the start of the position, 35 hours, and whatever else was mentioned. I think we're all in agreement with that.
Yeah, the grant opportunity
Correct.
and the
And
bilingual
bilingual.
preference.
Say that again.
Bilingual grant opportunities, a review period with the public health.
Review period of a particular time?
After
We'll
the
do 2 years at start of the position.
By the Board of Health and the director.
Please.
By the Board
I
of Health.
trust
By the
your
Board of Health
department.
Director.
And director.
Okay,
That's my motion.
that's my, I will
second it.
Yeah, I'll
Do you want me to
Council
repeat
Perlman?
it back? Would that be helpful? Do you have it written?
Council Perlman second that. I'm sorry, what's that, Council Perlman?
Oh, I was just going to say, I wanted to make sure you had written it down. Did you have the different items?
I'm probably gonna need some help.
Okay, because we can repeat it
So-
back, so.
Okay, so motion's been made and seconded to approve order number 22-100-8678, proposed salary ordinance, Chapter 125 Personnel, Section 6, to create a new position entitled Substance Use Prevention Coordinator and Intervention Specialist within the Health Department with a 7-step salary table, minimum of $58,000 to a maximum of $65,317.42 for a 35-hour work week, together with the required job description in accordance with City Code, Chapter 125, Personnel, Section 5, preparation of classification description, as amended with the following amendments of the two-year review by the Board of Health,
Yes, and the director,
the Director.
the actively pursue grant opportunities, and the preference for bilingual language skills.
Absolutely.
Is that captured?
Can I ask, is it in 2 years or every 2 years?
He said in-
I would just, in 2 years, or just
2
to
years.
see how the
In 2
position's
years.
going.
Come down next year if you want.
In 2 years of the start of the position.
This-
You'll be
Yeah,
down.
into.
You'll be down for the budget too, so.
Okay. Motion been seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? It carries 5-0 as amended.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Don't say it.
All in favor? Carries 5-0. We are adjourned at 8:22 PM.